Gemma and Milo. Part 13 and 14. The stuff of dreams, said Gemma's mum. Young Gemma looked up at the point in the sky where her mum was looking. It was the first constellation that she had ever been shown. When she was a little smaller and her hair a little lighter. Pyxis, Gemma whispered. That's right, said her mum. It's a mariner's compass. Do you know what that means? Gemma looked at her mum and thought. She always liked the name Pyxis, even if it was almost impossible to say when she had a loose tooth. But she had never thought about what it meant. She shook her head. A mariner is someone who sails the ocean, Gemma's mum said. So, like a sailor? Gemma asked. Exactly! And a compass is a tool. It helps you figure out which way to go. Gemma looked back at the constellation. It looked to her like it was twinkling. She had never seen anything so beautiful. We're going to be sending you to stay with your Uncle Horace at his harbour. He'll teach you how to sail. But I need you to remember something, said Gemma's mum. Gemma stared even harder at Pyxis, trying not to look at her mum. No matter where you go, Pyxis will be there to help guide you. It will always be with you, just like your father and I, she finished. The stars turned blurry through Gemma's tears. Inside an observatory in the middle of a lake, 15 years later, Gemma knew what she had to do. She repeated the numbers to herself that were next to a drawing of Pyxis inside the book. She turned the dials on the telescope carefully, one then the other. Slowly the telescope spun around, and its great tube tilted downward. When it stopped, Gemma knew that it had. She knew exactly what she would see when she peered inside the eyepiece. The brightest image of Pyxis she had ever seen. But what she didn't expect was the soft thud of something dropping at her feet. A silver scroll rolled until it tapped the front of her shoes. She pulled away and picked it up, barely noticing the scattered holes around the telescope from golden moles. Milo twisted his head and looked up underneath the dials. He pointed to a secret compartment that had held the scroll, tucked away out of sight. When Gemma turned the telescope to Pyxis, it had opened up and dropped the telescope, without care of any lemurs that might have been hit by it, Milo noted. A secret within a secret, thought Gemma. What do you think it is, Milo? She asked. But before even his eager hands could grab the scroll to look, they were surprised again by a noise. This time it was one they had heard before. It gave her a peculiar feeling to hear the familiar jingle of her brass bell inside some new and odd place. Gemma turned to see her old friend around. He was not a friend at all. The jaguar. He was prowling around the hole that they had climbed in from. Gemma clutched the scroll and stepped in front of Milo to protect him. You again! How in the world did he get here? She asked. That's when Gemma realized there wasn't just a bell she recognized. The bell was attached to a purple ribbon again, wrapped around the jaguar's neck. Gemma took a step back. But how is that possible? How do you get my ribbon back? She asked. I would have introduced us all properly, said a voice from the tunnel, but this hole is a bit more snug than I expected. That voice, said Gemma. Gemma and Milo stood wide-eyed as Charles Bucket, with his hat on his head, crawled out of the hole. What have you got there? Asked Charles. I've been meaning to thank you. My jaguar had grown quite fond of his ribbon back, and he's happy to have it back, said Charles Bucket. The jaguar paced back and forth, and then sat next to Charles Bucket. Gemma did what many people do when they are scared and have 1,000 important questions going through their mind. She asked a completely different one. What's your jaguar's name, anyway? She asked, trying to act as cool as possible. Charles Bucket raised his chest indignantly. Name? Why would he need a name? He's mine and he does what I want. That's all you need to know. Gemma had an instinct to clutch the scroll even harder. What do you want? She asked. Charles Bucket took a step forward. Do you know what it is that you're holding, Gemma? Gemma answered more honestly than she expected. No! No one will tell me, and it's starting to get annoying, she snapped. Charles Bucket walked over to the telescope just as Gemma and Milo backed away from it. He looked at the eyepiece and smiled as he spoke. Ah, Pyxis, of course. He turned back towards Gemma. Did you know why the explorers of old made constellations? It was a way of communicating, painting with the stars, he said, answering his own question, a habit that Gemma never liked. Yeah, I know, she said with an attitude. Painting is a way of speaking with your hands. Charles Bucket smiled large. I see you've met a willow. Did you know that she made what you're holding? Gemma tapped his shoulder, and Milo jumped on. Gemma wondered aloud. Willow drew it? You mean it's a map, my dear Gemma? Charles Bucket finished. The most greatest treasure in the world, Gemma whispered. Charles Bucket took an angry step towards her. Ugh, your parents called it that. It's a childish name. My parents? She asked. The map holds secrets. Secrets they search for even now. A foolish in devourer without the map. And now I finally have it. Except, dear friend, he did not have it. Because feeling that something is yours and it being yours are two very different things. Gemma scrubbed the scroll with her fingers. This was what my parents are trying to find. This is why they left, she said, looking off into the distance, which, in this case, was the wall of the observatory, 3 feet away from her. It was so long ago, I can hardly... Oh, what does it matter? Charles interrupted. You led me to it, and now it's mine. Gemma was beginning to understand, connecting the dots like stars in constellation. You've been following me, she shot back. Of course I have. In the dusty rust basket, he answered. Gemma and Milo smirked at each other. It really is the worst name, she quipped. What was that? He asked. Oh, nothing, she answered, looking innocent. Enough! Give it here! With the jaguar by his side, Charles Bucket lurched forward to grab the scroll from Gemma. Without a word or a thought, Gemma tucked it behind her back. Milo swung down, swiped it from her, and ran to the other side of the observatory. It was, to that day, the best hand-up they had ever pulled off. Charles Bucket slowly approached Milo, taking his time to make sure the lemur couldn't escape past him. Meanwhile, the jaguar went after Gemma, backing her away until she bumped into the side of the dome. They were cornered, the both of them. Gemma felt something poking her in the back. Spinning around, she saw that there was a plaque, and below it, protruding from the wall, the hollow base of a switch. The jaguar was closing in, and she hadn't much time to read the words. The writing was faded, but she was still able to make out the letters. Before you leave, she read, please seal the door. Protect the secret evermore. It's another riddle, Gemma said aloud. Lucky for her, and for Milo, and for all of us, dear friend, Charles Bucket did not pay attention to her words. He had only the scroll on his mind. There's nowhere to go, little monkey, said Charles Bucket as he reached out to grab it. Milo shook his fur, clutching the scroll against his beating chest. Gemma looked at Milo. Her heart hurt, seeing him scared. She had less than no time to figure out the riddle. But it wasn't the words that struck her. It was the switch. All that was needed to pull the switch would be a long, thin instrument. A tiny satchel hung at her side and opened with ease. It used to be her brass bell that she kept inside. But with it hanging around the neck of an approaching jaguar, she found something else instead. Something long, something thin. She pulled out Willow's paintbrush and locked it in place on the switch. Charles Bucket grabbed Milo by the arm and harshly reached for the scroll. Gemma's eyes grew wide with anger. He's not a monkey, shouted Gemma. He's a ring-tailed lemur. Charles Bucket turned to Gemma, still holding Milo. She pulled down on the switch until there was a loud click. And he did not give you permission to touch him. A low rumble began to shake the observatory. The jaguar's eyes darted back and forth, looking for the source of it. The noise grew as the walls of the observatory started to creak and shimmy. All 4 sets of eyes found the hole that they had crawled in from. Water shot up to the top of the observatory. Smaller streams came rushing out of the golden mole holes. Faster than Gemma could understand why, the lake water was filling the observatory. To be continued. Thank you for reading the story along with me. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, share and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next part. Thank you for watching, and make sure you comment down below what part was your favourite if you enjoyed it and what you think will happen next. Also, do you think that Charles Bucket is who he seems to be? Goodbye, and check out all my other videos. I hope to see you in another adventure.